Good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you're listening from, wherever you're watching from. I am Dr. Canute White. You're watching, listening, Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. And we have just celebrated International Women's Day 2022 on March 8th this year. And the theme for that day was break the bias. And Canute Exploration continue to break the bias as it relates to the challenges that women have across the globe, really. And this month also is celebrated as the month of March, the Women History Month, that is. And, for that reason, I continue to celebrate women. Women are very important in our life. They're, for me, and for many men and others, even a lot of women, movers and shakers of this world. Without them, we wouldn't be here, honestly. I have seen baby mothers, pregnant women who have gone through so much. And I said to myself, hey, it's really, really the power of a woman who brought us here, and it's really, really very important for us to celebrate them. Doesn't matter the challenges that they're having, and the series continues. Voices of Challenge Women. This is part 3, part 1 and part 2 you can find, and in this link you'll also be able to pick up part 1 and on the part 2. I am sitting with a number of women who have had challenges, because even though there might be limitations, the challenges that they have had might, some of the challenges that they have overcome. And we are going to be talking with women who are disabled, who have had challenges, but despite the disabilities, despite the limitations, they are strong, they are in leadership, they are writing, they are doing so much in society, and we have to give respect to them and love them because they are women of strength. And I'm now going to ask these women, my guests, to introduce themselves, to talk about their personal challenges and how they have overcome them. I'd like to start with Tracee. Tracee, thanks for coming. Welcome to Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I am Dr. Canute White.
Thank you, Dr. White. So great to be here with all the women and the lovely ladies. So some of my challenges, I have a physical disability. I have a form of muscular dystrophy, and I use a wheelchair. I've used a wheelchair since elementary school to get around and to live my life from my wheelchair. But it's been an awesome journey, a lot of challenges. Some of my challenges are, just getting around, transportation, and then, a lot of attitudinal barriers that all of us, I'm sure, have encountered. A lot of ignorance around what people with disabilities can do, and how we can be gainfully employed and make contributions to society. So we have to be really aware and cognizant of the barriers that people place on us. It's like they do not know what we can do. They do not know our capabilities, yet they are all in our business, placing limitations on what we do. And we have to be careful about that, about how we let them speak over us and our abilities.
Nice. I love that, Tracee. Let me now go to Patty. Let me hear you. Introduce yourself and what are your personal challenges I know you overcome.
Yes, hello everyone. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in my first year of teaching physical education. I walked away from teaching 10 years later. I have trouble walking. I fall a lot, brain fog. Some of the challenges are people who don't know me think I've had too much to drink, or they know me and they'll say, but you look so fine. Maybe you're not trying hard enough. And it's important for us to still stay true to what we feel we can do, who we are, and educate others not to be so judgmental, and learn as much as you can about what other people may be facing.
Yeah. I love that, Patty. So that's all about breaking the bias, looking at
Absolutely.
challenge women, right? And breaking the bias among women we have to understand the challenges. Let's go now to Cox. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Hi, everyone.
Okay, let's introduce yourself, Cox, and tell us what the challenges that you're having and how you overcome.
I'm Michaela Cox. I'm an author speaker, but my journey has been a journey of what I call 38 triple D, lifelong disability of legal blindness since birth. I got divorced at 26, and then in 2017, I lost my husband, so I'm a widow and solo mom who's disabled.
Okay, Cox, I'd like you to go into the triple D. Go into the triple D a little for us. What are the triple Ds?
Disability, the first one, of legal blindness since birth. There hasn't been a day or breath I've taken that I haven't had a visual impairment or legal blindness. And then the second one was divorce at 26. And then the third one was death of my husband at 38, when I was 38 in 2017. And that's what I've been doing for the last almost 5 years of being a solo mom to 2 kids and doing the mom thing and trying to do my writing and speaking and all that.
Great. I have had Cox before on my program, my show, very interesting episode. You can look for it, viewers, listeners, and you will hear a full story. Let's go now to Shelly. Shelly, how you doing? Introduce yourself and tell us what your challenges are.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Dr. White. I really appreciate being here with a wonderful panel of other strong, self-sufficient women, so bravo to us. Just breaking those stigmas and biases. I was born as a congenital hemipelvectomy, which means basically I was born without my right hip and my right leg. I also have scoliosis and lordosis in my lower L4 and L5 spine. But despite that, I was one of the first women that was documented in medical studies twice for going on to having 3 natural pregnancies. And they are 3 beautiful boys at 23, almost 21, and 16. Been married 25 years. Just got my master's degree in human services with honors 2 weeks ago. And yeah, and so it's a challenge that
Congrats.
I'm breaking that stigma. I started my own inclusive consulting LLC during COVID, and I've been working with the Pennsylvania Historical Society to improve their accessibility to their historical parks in Pennsylvania. I'll be speaking to the Occupational Nurses Association in Susquehanna this fall on biases, stigmas, first-person language, and all that strong stuff that we need to learn about. And I work in human services, doing a lot of advocacy, in particular for the senior citizen population.
Oh, great. I love that. All wonderful women trying to ensure that they go out there and be a force to be reckoned with. And, ladies, in the disability community, there are so many challenges that other women are facing. Right? And what are some of the challenges that you are seeing out there, having gone around and having heard, talked to individuals? What are some of the challenges you're seeing out there in the disability community as it relates to women? And we look at how they may overcome. Just tell us what you are seeing, starting with Patty.
I would say lack of information and not knowing how to respond to somebody who has a physical or a mental challenge, and it's okay to ask questions. I would rather have somebody ask me a question they may think is silly, but I actually think it's really important. So I just find lack of knowledge being a real big one.
Right. Oh, what are you seeing, Tracee, out there? What are you seeing being there?
Yeah. So what I've seen mostly is a lot of isolation, especially during COVID times. I think that one of the major deficits among some people with disabilities is just the access to technology in order to communicate. People don't have, necessarily have smartphones and tablets in order to get on Zoom. They don't know how to use it. And so that can be very isolating. There was nobody to come over, teach you how to use it, help you get online. And so, sadly, I think some of those people really suffered, just not being able to I have, a lot of us, probably all of us have work and we have community, things that we're doing. But what about people who, don't have that, don't have families? I'm single and I don't have kids. And so it was just, at times it was really hard. I had all the technology. I have all the technology I need, and because I have employment, I can afford it. And I actually ended up teaching some people how to use Zoom, but mostly people that already had access. And so I think that we forget about those people who live in silos and who really don't, like, if you live with an older caregiver, well, if you don't know the technology and you 40 and 50, they don't know the technology, they're 70 and 80. So it was kind of a double whammy, I think, sometimes for women. And, that really struck me. And just having a disability, having lack of access is a pandemic in and of itself, a separate pandemic.
Wow. Interesting. Before I go on to Cox and Shelly, I saw you, Patty, shaking your head. Is there something that was said that, jumped out at you?
The isolation is huge, and worse now because of COVID. But again, I'll go back to how people feel they are viewed out in the public if they look different, walk different, act different. So they tend not to go out there because it's very unsettling and they're uncomfortable. And so some people choose to remain at home, which is terrible.
Right. We're looking at women challenged with disability and how they get by and basically overcome, because I believe that women shall overcome and will overcome breaking the bias on Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I'm Dr. Canute White. Cox, what are you seeing out there as it relates to the general challenges that women with different disability are facing?
I think, at least for me, transportation's always been an issue because I don't drive due to legal blindness. But when you are resourceful and advocate for yourself, you can pretty much get around it with a lot of work. But other issues, at least stateside, I don't know about internationally, there's a lot of social policy issues. There's issues with employment. There's issues with education. And there's just not enough conversation because I don't think people know how to handle topics they don't understand or are comfortable with. And out of all the movements that rightfully should have been had in our country of the states, the disability is the last one that's ever been touched. I mean, when you look through all the movements of civil rights or women's movements or gay rights or all the other ones, which should have happened, I'm not saying that, we didn't have a piece of legislation on the books until 1990, and it's outdated and it needs to be fixed. And the only national really conversation that was ever had around the disabled in America was during the 2008 presidential election with Sarah Palin as VP, who brought it up because of one of her kids, and it's not been touched since. So I think there's a lot that could be done around it, but no one does it. So from my perspective.
Right, that's all right. The elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk or do anything about it. But I should say that Patty is out of Canada. And let me hear you, Shelly. What are you seeing out there?
So I'm going to piggyback off of what Michaela said.
Okay.
The ADA, the American with Disabilities Act, is 32 years old this year in July. And they got a lot of things right, but employment was one that they didn't get right. And that employers are afraid. Their excuses are what, Patty? It's going to cost too much money. It's going to take too much time to, train this person. There's going to be too much financial burden on us, even if we're a multi-billion-dollar company. Am I right, Patty?
Absolutely.
And these are excuses. That's all they are. So I do a lot of training and public speaking on that very point, because we need to crush those stigmas and those biases. Those microaggressions and those micro experiences. I think for me, the biggest problem I see is micro experiences. When I got pregnant at 28, my socket goes around my waist for my prosthetic. And I was on crutches because I couldn't fit into my leg for that pregnancy.
Yeah.
And I had an older white gentleman come up to me walking into a store and say to me, "What kind of mother are you going to be? Who would get you pregnant and how are you going to raise this child?"
Mhm.
Well, let me just tell you, 2 out of my 3 boys so far are Eagle Scouts. They are both electrical engineers and international business administrators in college.
Yeah.
And they have all their arms, all their legs, and everything is perfect. And they're healthy. So don't assume what we as women with any disability can and cannot do.
Amen.
Let us make
Amen.
those boundaries for ourselves.
Yep.
And you do you somewhere else if you're not going
Mhm.
to show us respect, because we are entrepreneurs, we are teachers, we are parents, we are business owners, we are our business leaders, we are politicians, like Tammy Duckworth. Love her. So
Definitely. Definitely. And that's what we're about here in Canute Exploration, breaking the bias. Because I know that women with disability are very powerful and they're able to do even better than those who are able in many cases, right? So I stand with you and it relates to that. But let me ask though, talking about overcoming, let me start with Patty again as it relates to the Canadian situation, because you're in a different culture than the other 3 ladies. Overcoming of women with disability in Canada, in the Canadian situation.
For me personally, it's been a shift in mindset and pushing away those thoughts and people and ideas that do not serve me. I live in British Columbia, where Rick Hansen is from, and Rick Hansen is in a wheelchair, and he has made a huge impact in our province. Across Canada, I think disability laws on the books are a good place to start, but like everything, they need to be updated regularly, and a lot of things do, but disability seems to be at the end of the bus. And so, as Michaela said, you learn to, I'm going to say, fight for yourself, but it's not really that. It's you look after yourself and in hopes that it filters through onward and outward to others. So mindset, absolutely.
Thanks for that.
I would also add though that people really underestimate how much fighting and advocacy is exhausting. You know what it's like to fight? Like if you just got off the bus, I had to fight to get on the bus, got off the bus, then I got to fight when I get to work and, deal with these people and their ignorance. And then I got to fight when I get home because something isn't accessible or the van didn't come back on time to take me home. Fighting with the grocery people who don't want to, assist me in the store getting the items that I need. And so I think that that's something else that came out is just the responsibility that women also have. It's Women's History Month, but the thing that should be going around during Women's History Month is a break. For every woman is to, have a break, a day off, a spa day, because we are physically, mentally, emotionally, carrying so much. And, when people say, oh, but you keep fighting. Well, yes, but, I'm just about, tired of that. You have to really choose your battles and what you're going to fight. And I don't think people realize how exhausting and how many different iterations of fighting that I just mentioned, going through your day, get on the bus, go to the grocery store, go to work. All of those sectors have people that are just not helpful and not open-minded. And so to confront that in every, it'd be nice to just move to a little tiny island where everything was accessible. There were no attitudinal barriers, and, you'd be welcomed and included and believed, like, oh, here's some reproductive health. Are you interested in starting a family? It wouldn't be like, oh, well, you shouldn't start a family. You can, that's not for you, not for people that look like you. And so I think that it is tiring. You fight and you fight hard and you're a staunch advocate, but there are some days where it's like that it's really difficult to keep telling people the same thing over and over again. That's what it is. It's like each one reach one, teach the other person what I just told you, so I don't have to teach them, again and again. And I think
interesting, Tracee. But we talk about fighting. That's very interesting. You keep fighting daily, and I find that very interesting. Cox, this whole thing about fighting, right? And your suggestion of how women living with disability can overcome the struggle of having to fight each day. Talk to us about that.
You can, but I don't disagree with her. It's exhausting. I mean, I've done it every day of my life, and increasingly have had to do it after, divorce, and then now having to raise 2 kids on my own without my husband that passed away, and contending, as always, with my disability. It adds an extra step to everything, like she said, and it is what it is, and it's exhausting, but you have to do what you got to do, no matter how much you may feel like not doing it some days, and how it makes you feel. So I get the exhaustion. And also mine has been, I would say, probably aspirated by grief is exhausting in itself in some ways. So is contending and advocating, and then you put it together. It's just been an interesting 5 years. But we must find a way, if we do want to not succumb to what the world thinks we should do, and prove them right. If we want to prove them wrong and not let them assume or presume to know what we can or cannot do, then we have to keep fighting no matter what it may be doing, is my opinion anyway, which is why I do what I do. But we have to all do ourselves and do what's best for us.
Yeah, I love that. Shelly, how can women overcome all of this? What's your suggestion as it relates to overcoming women with disability? Need to break the bias. How can they do this? What's your suggestion?
The statistics are that most people with disabilities don't go to college and get a higher education. Most, I read 2 years ago that 4,000 people were, through the Department of Human Services, were questioned about whether or not they felt persons with visible disabilities could be equal employees and co-workers. And 66% said they did not feel that a person with a visible disability would be an equal co-worker. But the thing that employers get wrong, and co-workers in America get wrong that are able-bodied, is that we women that are born with our disabilities, we each have our own different thing, that we are natural-born problem solvers. And so right from the start, we have had our lives flipped upside down, and the world was not built for us, and we all know that one. Yeah. And we don't have a choice but to keep going, because there is no fail. There is no giving up. We have people that rely on us, whether it's our children, our family, our friends, our coworkers, our employees, our employers. And so we have to keep going. There is no fail. There's just do. And so we just keep going. I mean, Patty's shaking her head, Tracee's shaking her head, Michaela's shaking her head, and it's just our everyday life. And
I was thinking we're the original MacGyver. Like, MacGyver's got nothing on us. We are MacGyver. I was also going to say too, when you talk about coping, Dr. White, and that is the importance of the networks that we have and that we've built. I mean, that's one way to, they help us, they soothe us. I have, a mother and, other family that helped me, that I could go to. Bless you, Patty. And that helps. So I think the importance of a network, you have to step outside your comfort zone, and you have to invite people into your life. But that is a real stress reducer, and also finding things that you enjoy. I finally went back to the library today after, many years, and got like 5 books that I checked out. And just returning to the things that you love is so important. But you need to have that network. You need to have an outlet, and you really need to take time off to rest and recharge yourself.
Yes. I'm happy you said that though, Tracee, because this thing about overcoming or coping, what is it one or the other? Because women with disability may not be able to overcome but they have to second and cope in the situation. What you think, Patty? Is it overcoming? I see Tracee had gone into it. Is it overcoming or coping?
Wow. I'm not going to pick either. And I think, to live the life that I want, I have my only choice is to do it, is to be. I wear the label of challenge as a badge of honor. And so it's neither for me. I think it's individual, and some people don't have a choice.
Yeah. What do you think, Cox? Is it overcoming or coping? What you think? Is it that you have to be second with it?
What I say is, you may not be able to move the mountain of our challenge. Like, I'm never going to make my disability go away, but I can choose to get around the mountain by for me, first and foremost, it's always my faith. And then it's life is a choice. I can either define me or I can define it. And then it's a mindset is key. And then self-care. And then being having resources and like facilitating and advocacy and network and all the things that you need to be able to get around what we're all struggling with. So that's what I've always done.
Yeah.
And I would say they're not even mutually exclusive. I think one day you overcome and you celebrate that, and the other day you don't overcome, but you cope.
Yeah.
So I think there's really an ebb and flow. They're both things are going to happen in this week. I'm going to meet a challenge and I'm going to overcome it. Another day, I'm going to decide that challenge is not worth my time. I don't have time. I'm going to take a nap and I'm going to cope with it.
Right.
So I think that you do both. You really do.
Yeah. Shelly, what do you think?
I think Tracee's really, really right. We're all kind of shaking our heads here. I think it's day to day, hour by hour, and there's a thing called spoonies. And I'm not a spoonie. I'm not sure what the concept is, but it's something of you have a little bit of time, and you have to really be careful with how you give your time and your energy to each activity throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your month. What's important to us at the moment. Sometimes I'll work another 3 hours on my business after my regular job. And sometimes I'll just sit on my phone and watch TV and just chill out and not do much of anything. So it really kind of depends how we physically and mentally feel. And she's right. I mean, it's always an ebb and flow of what works for us at any given moment.
Great. I know some of you ladies, you have written books. I know that Cox, you have a book coming out shortly. Tell us a little about your book and how it can help women break that bias.
I have 9 out, and I'm trying to get some out this year, but I've had delays. Trying to think which one to talk about. Trying to think, because I guess in my Now I See series that walks you through that journey of what I've lived through is where I share my experiences and shared what I've learned and the nuggets and the wisdom and what it has taken to live these things out. So hopefully the second one will be out in the spring. So
yeah. What's the name of the latest book that you have, Cox?
It was the first one in the Now I See series in June, and I'm hoping the second one will be out in April or May.
Okay, cool.
Right on.
Cool. Tracee, you have books out as well.
I do. I've written 17 books, and I had one just come out, thank you, in January. It's called Disability, a Field Guide for the Rest of Us. And what that really is doing is just giving my anecdotal advice about 9 different topics. And I really, I'm already working on the second version of that. It's volume 1 on the book that's out now. And I hope to do, maybe 3, 4, or 5 volumes where I'm asking people to contribute stories about lessons from the journey. So I talk about transportation and learning to drive and how I had to overcome, getting hand controls and modifications to the vehicle from a vocational rehabilitation center. I talk about advocacy, my parents being my first advocate, speaking up for yourself, learning to, and even employment. So there's 9 topics that I'm discussing in
Right.
Disability and Anecdotal Field Guide for the Rest of Us. And it's out now and it's doing well. And I'm trying to, it's a lot of work, but I'm trying to read the book as
Yeah,
a podcast. And that's been challenging.
I know, right?
But I keep trying, and but I do want other people on my website. I talk about how I want to do another volume where I'm just really the editor and curator, and
Right.
everybody's going to contribute topics and stories of their
Okay.
own. So the first one was all me with the 9 topics, and then the next versions will be other people contributing to the story too.
Right. Yeah, that's great. You write, Patty?
Yes, I was part of a book collaboration project. The book is called Absolute Will, and it's 22 women from around the world, 7 continents. Each chapter is their story of facing a very challenging event and how they came out at the end stronger, happier, more of a participator in life, and sharing everything they've learned with others. And the second book is going to be called Absolute Vision, and I will be writing a chapter in that book as well.
Great, great. I should be having you. I've had Michaela already, but I should be having you and the 3 ladies to talk more about your book and other things. Shelly, do you write?
I do. I've actually started out as a script supervisor on film and television as an independent person for 17 years. So I did a lot of script writing. I've helped to write some films and some TV shows. I've been a part of 2 medical journal research papers on women with disabilities, having children and how to overcome these challenges that we physically have, as in particular amputees. And I've been approached by Villanova University, where I'm a standardized patient. 4 years ago, we wrote the first obstetrics medical simulation in the country.
Right.
And it's the story timestamp of my second pregnancy, and teaching nursing students, and it's a very good thing. It's teaching nursing students how to talk about, how to think about, and how to advocate for mothers with disabilities during pregnancy.
Okay.
And so we're now looking at doing a book together on my life in particular.
That's interesting. That should be an interesting read. I have some questions that I'm going to be asking each of you. I actually picked these questions from your platform, and I choose one from each platform that I will be throwing out. However, when you hear each person talk about, answer those questions, if you have any question, follow-up question, that's where we're going to surround the discussion, the follow-up question that you may have. But let me start with Tracee. Your question, what is the main influence in your life that makes you so optimistic at this point? Talk to us, Tracee.
Yeah, I think that my dad was a preacher and my mom was a singer. So my dad has since passed away in 2011, but my mom is still here with me. And just the faith that they had, they didn't give up on each other. They didn't give up having a child, with disabilities, even though I'm as articulate as I am. There's still many physical challenges of different homes we lived in with steps and being carried and just a lot of different things. They really stuck together and they really hung out, and they're high school sweethearts. So that influenced my romance writing and telling tales of love, especially Black love and stuff like that, and uplifting and happily ever after. And I just know that God has a plan, and I try to, even though I reckon with him about, every time I get up, I'm like, I'm still disabled. Like, what's going on? You done yet? Do you have enough glory? And so he's like, no, not quite. Keep going, my humble servant. Something like that. There's a Starbucks card in your wallet. Like there's little crumb droppings that I can get. It's like, okay, I guess I continue in this life. There is a Starbucks. So, just keep going and just have faith. And those are the things that really resonate with me.
Let me do it this way. I've been asked you that question, Tracee. Let me hear the questions to you from the other ladies. Let me do it like this. I kind of
Sure.
see a lot of shares. Any question to Tracee as it relates to her response? Anything? I saw you, Patty. What's your take on what Tracee had said?
My dad is my hero. I tell my husband all the time, I love you, but you'll never be number one on my list. My mom is my cheerleader.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I was lucky to teach high school for 5 years, and majority of the people in my Facebook are former students who are ambassadors of my story. And yeah. And all you guys.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
great.
Tracee, I feel you. You know, waking up and going, "Oh, I'm still disabled."
Yes.
As a teenager, I was so frustrated with the life that I was handed, and be like, "Why can't I just grow a leg? If I'm
Right.
faithful enough, and I'm a really good Christian, that I'll be given a leg. I'll wake up and one will sprout." Several decades later, I think I've given up that hope and that dream, and just created a life. And my father always said to me, "You are born this way for a reason." And I think the advocacy work and the public speaking and the correcting stigmas and biases that I work on every day is my goal and my reason for my purpose for life, my passion.
Right.
So,
Right.
I
And
hear
just to add to what Patty said is that, disability is not easy. And anybody who acts like, they've been, a person with a disability as a champion for their entire life is just ridiculous. We all have instances, I feel, where we're mad at God. I just think some people hide it and some people don't share it. But that is to be human, is to ask, why do I have to keep going through this? And then still dealing with it anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just a part of life. It's a human thing to question and to ponder and to wonder, why. And, and you could say little answers like, you're the best person for the job. Other people can't handle what you have. That's total BS. That makes you feel good in the moment. But all of us will rise to the equation. Whatever befalls you, you will rise. You will find it within yourself to cope. And people who don't believe that, they might wither and die a little bit, but somebody will help them get up and help them keep going.
Cox?
And it'll be one of us.
Yeah, probably. And we'll be like, see, I should have told you. You should have acted a little more humbly when you were walking. So,
Cox, what do you have to say? Cox, do you have to say anything on Tracee's answer?
I agree. I mean, I think when you come from a point of view in life of where we're speaking from, it makes everything look different than what most people worry about or realize or even think about or have to contemplate. And I agree. If they say it's a walk in the park, it's not. I mean, you may choose to fake the funk and make it look easy, but it's not. And I think some of the questions she proposed, I probably dealt more with those in the last 5 years after losing my husband than I have probably ever before. But once again, I do my best to go back to my faith and let it keep me grounded and keep me going. So,
okay.
I would like to add one quick thing.
Go ahead, Patty.
6 months after I started teaching is when I was diagnosed with MS. And the man I ended up marrying asked me if I knew why I had MS. And I thought, you must be nuts. And he said, the reason is that you were so great in your previous life that God had to give you a challenge this time around. And I'll take it.
Yeah, and Patty, I love that. You're strong. I really admire your strength. Patty reaching out of Canada there and Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I'm Dr. Canute White. Patty, your question.
Okay.
You seem like someone who basically better off with MS, than you were before MS. Why?
Oh, that's brilliant.
Patty, let me say this. These questions, audience, were picked up from Patty's question that she'd like to answer. So let me say this. Okay, go ahead.
I love who I am because I live with MS. I am a fantastic person, and I am more empathetic. I see way more than I did when I was at university drinking beer and thinking I had the world by the tail. I am living my best life right now because I choose to see it that way.
Mm. Go ahead, ladies. Any question to her? Any come back with that?
Just a comment that, disability makes you more aware. You're more
Yeah.
self-aware. You're more
Absolutely.
aware of other people's, motivations. There's a level of maturity that you have to have, I think, in order to have a disability. And of course, we all know immature people with disabilities, but if you're shining and you're doing and you're moving forward, you definitely gain a level of maturity that I think other people lack.
Right.
I walked into a bus with a cane and got a seat, and a pregnant woman, I'm sure she was going to give birth in seconds, was standing, and I offered my seat to her. And it was just, it had nothing to do with I have MS or she is pregnant. It was just a really genuinely nice, thoughtful thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. We are breaking the bias. I'm not sure if Shelly and Cox have anything to say and that question too, Patty. But what we are doing is breaking the bias as it relates to women with disability. This is Canute Exploration. I'm Dr. Canute White. Cox, Shelly, anything on that?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Patty, what was the biggest change in your confidence or in your personality once you moved through your journey of being diagnosed and then, coming to grips with it or getting the hang of it? What did you notice was the biggest change about you as a woman?
Learning to ask for help and not doing it all alone independently, and asking for help and being afraid that the other person is going to say no. And women are the mothers. We have that motherly instinct in us. And I think my sports background, it's just keep going. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you when that happened, but I can say it has happened. Yeah.
I have a question too for Patty. How are the adaptive recreation and fitness programs out there? Have you started something, or did you go to find something for yourself?
No, I live in a very rural town, and COVID has been very tough. The one gym that supported people with challenging obstacles went under because they couldn't stay open. The nearest bigger place that you could get support is 3 hours away. So people who live here are one of two things: elderly and have been here their entire lives, or people who have retired.
Okay, great. The next direct question I'd like to ask Cox. Cox, what is your message to single disabled women, single mothers who are disabled out there? What is your message to them?
My message would be to really anyone with any tribulation or challenge or disability is it's, find your grounding. You got to believe in yourself and advocate for yourself. It's a choice. And it's a mindset, and that can help you do just about anything and have your resources because you're going to need them. And try and live your best life because you get one shot. So strive to thrive.
Yeah. Patty, you want to say something on that? You appreciate it? Yeah.
I think Michaela and I should go into the creating bumper stickers business because you have some great affirmations there. So if you get a knock on your door one day, it might be me with a business proposal.
I'd look forward to that. Let's get together. I think we all need to chat after this.
I must say before I ask Shelly that in the description of this episode there is a link to these ladies audience. You will see that they're listeners, and I will ensure that you ladies get together. I will make that happen whenever you want to. Right, I have those links
Okay.
to share. But
Yeah.
Shelly,
Yes.
what do you have to say based on what Cox had said?
I think she's absolutely right. We need to build a village as women, as parents, and as people with, women with disabilities. And we need that tribe. We need to find our tribe. And because I think, especially with kids, littler kids, we beg, borrow, and steal favors, don't we, Michaela?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Great.
resources is where it's at. And thank God we have the internet like we do, because when I was growing up, I didn't have my tribe of other amputee family.
Oh, yeah.
And that's important for us to have in so many ways, on so many levels. So, yeah.
Yeah. Tracee, you have anything to say with it as it relates to Cox response?
Yeah, definitely. Well, to Michaela and Shelly, just about the network, which I mentioned earlier, and I actually view my book as kind of like a network, almost like a phone book that you go and you learn. And I'm sure Michaela Cox's book too is kind of about stories, and that's where the real meat is learning, reading, having the resources out there, and then connecting with people too. I would just ask Michaela, how do you influence your children to be empathetic and kind and caring, to other people?
Well, right now they're 8 and 11. And so I jokingly say all the time, we'll have a conversation in 10 years when they're 18 and 21 and doing well in the world. And then we'll give the verdict on how I've done over the last 15 years.
I'm sure
no,
you're
in all
doing great.
seriousness, that's more on me talking about, ask me in 10 years of how I did. But since being a single mom, I hope, you can only do what you do and hope at the end of the day it amounts to what you want it to. But I really hope, and seeing me as their mom and their only parent at this point, knowing, because they know I'm disabled, it's no secret. They know that everyone has to take them places. I facilitate it, but I'm not the one that's taking them places or picking them up, and other things like that. But I hope watching me do what I do daily and hopefully doing it well, striving to thrive, will maybe teach them things that I have learned at a very early age from being disabled my whole life, of endurance and persistence and sheer willpower and determination and perseverance and hard work and tenacity. And then they'll maybe, even though thank God they don't have to, I've told my daughter on more than one occasion, her life will probably look very different from mine, and she won't have to do it the way I did it, but maybe she'll get, and my son too, the values and instill them in them for their own journey, even though their journey will be different from mine.
Oh, interesting.
Michaela, my boys are older, 21, 23, 16. So I've kind of made it over that hump of littler kids. And I can tell you, I see it in my boys. They're more patient. They're more kind. They look to be helpful, even when somebody's doesn't have a visible disability, but that they understand that every 1 in 5, 1 in 4 Americans have some sort of disability. Some of them have their own challenges with ADHD, and they understand how to empower themselves, how to use their calming coping skills. So just keep nagging them lovingly as a parent from one mother to another. They will get it, and it does make a difference in everything that you do with them every day.
Okay, well, I'll give y'all an update in 10 years, okay?
Interesting.
I would also say just make the kids help more. I look at some of these kids and, they get the entire grocery, they paid for it, and the kid gets on the phone and gets in the car and sits down like there's nothing else to do. I think that there are some things that happen that should be age appropriate, but I think teaching empathy, it starts, really at home. Help mom do this. You're old enough, you can carry at least one bag.
Yep.
So I just think that is part of it, not us doing everything ourselves, but, making them be helpful. Open the door. If you see somebody sitting there, outside the door, do you need help? Would you like me to open the door for you? I just think it could start even as early as 5 years old, as far as what what we're teaching our kids and teaching them about disability too.
Yeah, very interesting discussion that we're having. And I tell you, before I go to Shelly, Shelly's question, very interesting question. I know it might cause for a bit of a discussion here, but these direct questions are questions, audience, that my guest actually suggested that they would answer. So I asked them, at least one from those lists. I must say though, I remember Michaela was on my show, and she said something very humorous, and most of my listeners laughed. Michaela believed that running as exercise is too much work. That's not relaxing. It's a lot of work.
I have my own version of relaxing, and that ain't one of them. I only run when I'm scared or have to cross the street, okay? I have my own versions of exercise and relaxing. But it's self-care. It's about the self, so we have to find our own version that refuels us, and we're all individuals, and it's going to be different for everybody. But yeah.
Yeah, I know. A lot of my audience laugh at that, and find it very interesting, Michaela. They love it. They love it. Shelly, your question that you would like to answer, love to answer. Very interesting. It might not go so for all persons, but I'd love you to answer this question. And it goes like this: do persons with disabilities really have sex?
Yes.
We didn't have kids. We didn't.
But I've had many discussions with international friends of all abilities and disabilities, and it's a huge stigma of,
Oh yeah.
How does that work? Well, gee, if I have to explain the birds and the bees to you, you're missing out on something. And I have friends that are wheelchair users that have children naturally, and just because we have a disability, it doesn't mean that we don't want to be parents. Male or female, and we do. We are lovers, and we are friends, and we are partners, and parents, and it is very important for society to get over that curiosity, because it's really, at the end of the day, none of their business how we have sex or if we have sex, and it's just our choice to, when we find the right person to be with us, to be parents and figure out how that is going to look. When my husband and I decided to have children naturally rather than adopt, I said, okay, then we're going to do it the old fashioned way. And he said, well, how's that going to work? And I said, well, we're going to figure it out. And for us, it took us a year the first time, but by the third child, it was natural, and we had no idea grade 3 was coming, and my body figured out what to do for itself. But it not only taught me a lot about myself and my inner strength and pulling up just one more bootstrap for myself, but it also, I tell my children I don't have a favorite, because each one of them came to me in a different way at a different time of my life. And
That's excellent.
And I'm proud. I'm proud that I was able to do that and give that gift to myself and my husband. And I taught the medical field and my prosthetist, my leg maker, a lot, and how to think outside the box for future mommies that have come home from the war.
Yeah. And any response to Shelly's response?
I met a lady when I was going to school, and she was diagnosed with MS and ended up in a wheelchair, and her husband were at that place. Are we going to have a family? Are we going to do this with me not being 100%? And her husband said the best thing, and that is, you can still be a really good parent while sitting in the chair.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Right?
Yeah. Tracee?
Yeah, I don't want to touch that one with the 10-foot pole, but I am still available just in case there are any listeners out there who may be interested, So I don't know if you want to turn the show into
okay, you have to clear that. Publicly, Tracee.
But PSA, Tracee's looking, and probably Michaela too, maybe.
And her email is right there for anybody watching. Tracee's email right there. You can go.
Slide into my DMs.
Okay,
that's been a challenging part of my journey, but I've gotten there slowly, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But we'll see what happens.
Right. So Michaela, Tracee, Patty, and Shelly, you guys are epitomes of what ladies with disabilities, they are able to perform well in industries. They're writers, they're speakers, they're so much, right? So the stigma must not be there as it relates to what these ladies can do and should do. That's the thing as well, because people put limitations on ladies with disability and saying, I think you should do that. Shelly, you have children, right? And so on. So these are the sort of situations that I on Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast, trying to deal with, trying to break the bias as it relates to women, those with disabilities, those who are having challenges in the workplace, be it leaders who are female leaders who are underpaid and so on. As a man, I believe in women and believe that women are really, really a force a force of strength, not to reckon with. Let me pull that back, but a force of strength. I said not to reckon with because women also have their strength to move forward, and we're not fighting. I'm not encouraging fighting women, so it's not a reckon with thing, right? I am really advocating giving women the space to live, to journey, because they have a space in society and able to perform.
Although I'm sure we could fight if we had to. It depends on what we have to fight for.
Yeah, well,
every single person on the screen right now, we plant a seed every single day into somebody who needs hope, who needs to know they're not alone, who needs to know there are no dumb questions. We do that every single day. So good job, ladies.
Yeah. And as we wrap up in 3 minutes, I'd just like to ask each of you 1 minute to give your final encouragement to ladies living with disability. I'm starting with Patty.
You are not alone. Facebook has 1 million groups. It doesn't have to be about your disability. It could be just a social group. And as Tracee said, that isolation thing is real, but you are not alone.
Okay. Tracee.
Yes, just, keep trying no matter what. Don't give up. Keep going. Every day is a new day. Even if you get it and have a hard time on one day, you can start again. Go take your nap. That's what I advocate. Take a nap and get up refreshed and start over.
And I know why Cox laugh, but Cox.
I'm all for naps. It's been a rainy day here. I don't think we'll do. Like I said, just you get one shot, we get one life. So live your best life. Don't let it define you, and you define it for yourself and strive to thrive.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Shelly.
Final thoughts. I think be proud of what you have in life, internally and externally, and know that whether you were born with your disability or you've acquired your disability later in life, that it is for a higher purpose. And, really dig in and find who you are, because it will teach you things. Like Patty had to learn things. I had to learn things. We've all had to learn things. But finding your tribe and finding your family, even if it's international, absolutely find your tribe and know that you're not alone, like some of the others have said.
Okay. I ladies, I really appreciate you coming on Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I am Dr. Canute White. Thank you, ladies, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Nice